Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Arcantu here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so happy to have some time with you today. I couldn't be more excited about today's show. We always have so many great guests on, and we're talking about, their stories and their initiatives and their businesses, and elevating, all the great work that women are doing in our community. But today, I have a great, opportunity to share with you something that the YWCA of Northern New Jersey has launched with the help of the very talented Tara Dowdell Group. And, many of you, I'm sure, remember that Tara has joined us on YWTV not so long ago. And we talked about Tara and the great work that she's doing at her company, which we will definitely be touching on throughout this conversation today. But we also get to share with you what we kind of posted on our social media not so long ago about our new website, which we are so thrilled about. So with that, let's talk a little bit about websites. We know that websites are certainly key in this day and age. And I think if we learned anything during the time of COVID, they are even, the importance level of them has risen exponentially at a time when we were living more virtually, for sure. We also know that websites are, expensive prospects and projects, and also are, not something that's so, although there might be opportunities to create one on your own, if you have a complex, or if you even have a business that, is not, so basic, something like that really won't fly. You really need an expert to work alongside of you to make the work that you are doing shine using this modality. And that's what we've been able to do thanks to our amazing in-house team at the YWCA, our whole communications team, and the great team at the Tara Dowdell Group. Together, really, they've created magic. And I'm so excited to show it to you. It has a modern feel, a great look, and it really is much more reflective of who we are as an organization today versus the site that we had for years, which, did a job, but really had become outdated, and it was time for a refresh. And boy, did we get one. So with that, I would like to welcome my guest today, Ms. Tara Dowdell. Thank you for joining us again, Tara.
Thank you, Helen, for inviting me again and for being just a really outstanding partner. You and your comms team were really outstanding partners in this work. And I think the partnership is on display in this new website that you have.
It sure is. It sure is. And I'm so excited to talk about that. But before we do, I want to, make sure that we, you know, just again lift up what a great team Tara has. She's the founder and the president of the Tara Dowdell Group. We'll have the link here in the comments so you can learn more about her company. And I would also tell you to watch the YWTV that we did talking about her philosophy and the way that she does her business. And I think that that's so important and key in the product that we got. With our website, it really, really shines through in the process that they engage in to develop this. And we'll drop the link in for you as well so you can watch that YWTV and that great conversation that we had. Tara and her team offer services like graphic and web design, messaging, copywriting, brand strategy, public relations, and marketing. They use an extremely proactive and methodical approach to marketing and communications. Every website that she designs, every press release that they draft, every pitch that they craft is a direct result of a very clear goal. Today, we talk to Tara about the power and the value of a strong website and how they created the beautiful piece of art that we now call our website. And let me just share a little bit more about her background before we really jump in. She is an accomplished entrepreneur, communication strategist who is driven by passion for promoting organizations and businesses that are engaged in social good. We learned from our work with her, she really is picky about who she works with. And her partners really do have to fall within, her philosophy and her values. In addition to her business ventures, Tara is a respected television commentator and speaker. She appears on MSNBC and on Pix 11 News, where she provides progressive analysis on a range of political, government, and business topics. Her proven expertise unique insight and her engaging style have also made her a sought after speaker. She has addressed several major conferences and events, such as the NYU Stern School of Business, Women in Business Conference, Big Ideas in Higher Education Conference at Rutgers University, the Southern Women in Public Service Leadership Conference, the Center for American Women in Politics Ready to Run Conference, the Colorado Black Women for Political Action 39th Annual Luncheon, and so many more places where she has shared her voice. Prior to beginning as an entrepreneur, Tara served as the senior manager at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where she was responsible for directing the government and community relations strategy for the multi-billion-dollar redevelopment of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Really, all that expertise that you bring, I think, just shows through in the relationships, that you're building when you're creating a project like this. I know you get all of that when you get Tara Dowdell Group, and that's definitely an amazing, amazing plus. So, Tara, I obviously want to jump in and start talking about our website, and within that, I think it's so fascinating the process that we went through to get here. So, can you talk a little bit about why it's so important, although for organizations to take the time to look at their websites and refresh them? I know that especially nonprofits, we sometimes struggle because it is, is a financial commitment to making this kind of change. But it's an investment, really, and so can we talk a little bit about that? Because we definitely want to lift that up for others, because I know for us, it reminds me of like getting, I mean, this is not just like a cut and color, when you kind of decide that you need a refresh. I mean, I feel like we've done a total new look head to toe for the YW.
Yeah, so again, thank you. And thank you for that introduction. I was thinking you should maybe come and work amongst us marketers. Because that was quite an introduction and I appreciate it. It's like, who is that person? No, I do. I really appreciate that. No, you're absolutely right. The website, the point that you made, crystal clear, is the website is an investment. It shouldn't be treated any differently than any other investment that one makes in their organization to improve the services and the quality of work that your organization is doing. And so I think that people need to really reframe how they think about websites. Oftentimes it's an afterthought, but it is a big driver. It's a driver of donations. It's a driver of ensuring that people know about your services and what you offer, because in the absence of that information, then how can they utilize the services? And the first thing that people do when they're looking for a service is to go directly to Google. So you want the website to effectively communicate the impact of your work. You want it to effectively communicate what you can do for those who need those services, so that they know and feel safe and feel like there's a level of trust, right? And all of that is derived from the impression they get when they first land on that website. And also you want to promote the work that you do, and the website is an important vehicle to do that. For a number of reasons. In order to grow the work and expand the work, you have to promote the work. And I always say, the last thing I'll say on this is, the website is the one online platform that you fully control. So if you're using social media, you are still subject to the whims and the rules of those social media platforms. But the website, for the most part, is something that you have full control over for your organization's brand. And so I always say to people, if you don't tell your story, someone else will, and it will not be your story. And the website is the place where you tell that story.
Yeah, and I appreciate you talking about the social media piece, because I think, especially in the nonprofit realm, because so many of us have limited budgets, we often think, well, we have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, and we'll push out our information there. But you know, that definitely sells us and cuts us short, in terms of really, as you said, being able to tell the whole story. And I'm not sure from a functionality perspective, right? I mean, it doesn't give the same options to the user, in order to get information about your work.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And one of the most important parts to website development is the user, right? That's the whole point, the end user. And so everything that we do from a website design perspective, the planning of the website. Every element of it is based on user experience. And interestingly enough, what many people don't know is that Google actually rates user experience. So when you search or Google something, the websites that have a better user experience are prioritized by Google, because Google wants quality search. They want people to use Google and only use Google. So they do that by making sure that those things that are really easy for the end user to navigate, use, read through, that those things come up first because it improves the search experience of that user. And so they want to provide a premium experience. So they want to have premium websites. So I think a lot of people don't realize that their site could be being penalized by virtue of it not having a great user experience. Also, again, I want to go back to a point I made earlier in answering your first question, Helen, and that's about trust. And a lot of the work that nonprofits do relies on trust and credibility. And so the website is, for many people, the first interaction that they will have with your organization. And so you really want to have a high quality website because people will draw certain conclusions about whether there's that trust. So just little things like having a secure URL so that when information is, and so what I mean by that is a lot of times you'll see HTTP backslash and then the website backslash backslash. If you see that S there and that little lock, that means that the information that's going back and forth between the end user and the website is encrypted. And so for particularly a lot of younger users, they're aware of that. And they're aware, a lot of users are aware of it of all ages, but certainly younger users for whom this has been sort of, you grew up with this, right? They will look at the site and they'll know, and they'll think twice if they want to do certain things or interact with the site if they don't think, if they see that it's not, the data is not encrypted. So they may not feel comfortable sharing their information in a contact form or a newsletter sign up form. Donors will certainly may not feel comfortable donating through the website if they don't see that that data is encrypted. So there are little things like that that people have to keep in mind, because so much is about trust and whether or not the people you want to serve feel that level of comfort and trust and credibility that will make them come to you, and that website is their first interaction.
And, I also, think about, and I mean, I've had this experience myself when I've gone to websites. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating when you go to a website and, from the perspective of the entity that has the website up, you feel like it's there to give people information. But how many times do we go to websites and we can't find information? Like the navigation of them are so awkward. And it's just, you spend a few minutes on it and then you just give up and like try to Google a different organization or a different business because you just really weren't able to get what you wanted. And I'm sure that, you probably have the research and studies how many seconds to minutes people really put in trying to navigate before they move on. But I know even our old site, I had difficulty sometimes navigating it when I was looking for something to share with the community. So I'm so grateful to have this new, I say piece of art, that we've created, because accessibility is key and definitely paramount and at the core of what we've created here.
And that's absolutely right, Helen, because we do center in our work, at the heart of it is equity. And I mean equity in a broadest sense, people with disabilities, ensuring that there's high contrast on the website. So if people are visually impaired, that it's still easy for them to navigate the site. So we do try to center, and we work very hard to ensure that equity is at the heart of everything that we do. And we really start from there, because and then also keeping in mind, if someone, especially for the work that you do, there's so much sensitivity with Healing Space and some of the other services that you offer, and there are many other nonprofits for which this is the same dynamic. And you really want, when people are in distress, because we also do a lot of healthcare work as well, and when people are in distress, it needs to be, the information has to be very accessible, very easy to access, because they're in distress. So they're in a state of panic, and it's harder for them to navigate a site under the best of circumstances when they're in a distressed state. So then if you add the site having too much information or overwhelming amounts of information, then that makes it less likely that they will utilize the services, no matter how great the services are. But for them, it could be a source of frustration. So it is really important. And we tell our clients, we know everyone wants to tell their story in its entirety and tell a full and robust story, but you do have to be careful with the amount of content, because you don't want to overwhelm the user, particularly, again, those folks who are in distress.
Absolutely. And I'm also thinking probably as organizations and businesses who come to you, we all think we're so unique, and that there's different pieces to our work than other sites, and that it needs to be presented in a certain way. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the elements that you focus on as like in general, for creating websites, and then specifically what did you do for our site, in relation to those elements, and what are some of the features we should call out for our viewers, that really make us and this special and different.
So for YWCA of Northern New Jersey, it was important to us to really capture the breadth of your work. And you offer so many services, and ultimately those services are aligned because they're about creating a community that's grounded in equality, grounded in equity, and a community of support. And also you want to move the needle on policy. So we wanted to tell that story, and so we thought the video would be a good way to do it. Video is huge now in terms of engagement. If you see social media engagement is really high when people share videos versus just static photos. Also, in going back to the point I made about telling your full story, the breadth of the story and capturing it, we wanted to capture it in a way that did not overwhelm the user. So we ultimately landed on video, and taking, you had many different videos, and we took them and we edited them, and then we overlaid them with black and white, which we thought, which is part of your brand or your style guide. And for people who don't know what that means, it's sort of the colors and the type fonts and all of the elements that create the aesthetic of the brand, the visual side of the brand. So we knew that that was part of the brand. So we thought it would be sort of add a little bit of flair, right? Because we want to engage people. We want people to enjoy watching. And so we thought to have the bright orange, which is part of the color, really offering a level of optimism and energy, right? And then to contrast that also, which helps with accessibility with the black and white, we thought would be a good way to do all those things. And so the video really captures all of the different service areas and elements of the YWCA Northern New Jersey brand. So that was one element we opted for. And and so we thought opening the site with that would be really great because it immediately draws you in. That's another part of video, right? You immediately are drawn to video. That's why it's so popular, right? You see things are moving, right? It adds to the engagement. And then the other piece was we have a lot of engagement on your site. When you flow down, things fade in and fade out. We didn't want to go crazy with that because you have to be careful when programming a site that the site doesn't take too long to load because you have too many elegant elements. So we were mindful of that, ensuring that the site didn't take too long to load, because what will happen is if it takes too long to load, people are, to your point earlier, Helen, they're out. They're out of there. They're going to go on and find another organization that they can get through the site faster and get what they need faster. The other thing we always try to be mindful of is clients like you who are, you have research and data that you can offer. You have statistics, you have information that would be of interest to the members of the media or college students. So we wanted to also showcase that thought leadership on your site as well, and have it be a place that people might come to get information, to learn about things they may not know about, to gather information, which makes the site more useful too. And you want the site to be a resource for people. So that was another lens that we looked through. And given the work that you do and how well you do that work, we wanted to do that. And then ultimately, we always tell people you have to have the calls to action. And your organization already knew that, so we didn't have to really, we didn't. There wasn't really an education process there, so which was great. But for some people, there is. You don't want them to get to the site and there's not things for them to act on. So we wanted to definitely. A lot of the language is around building coalitions around the work that you do and getting people to join our coalition for change, right? Getting people to join with you to advance the work that you're doing. So a lot of the language, because the the visual narrative and the message narrative have to be aligned to tell that story in a way that's compelling and that's cogent. And so it was really important for us to align the messaging, to start with the messaging and then to align the visuals.
So, thinking about where we are in society today, I mean, everyone some people still do things on a computer, on a desktop or a laptop, but so many people do everything off their iPhones or some kind of, mobile device. Um, and I know, that's one of the things that, really hampered us, I think, with our old site is that it really wasn't mobile friendly. I think, it'd be good for us to explore a little bit for our viewers the importance of kind of that shift and, what that process is like, when you're looking at, updating your website.
That's a great call out, Helen. And I'm so glad that you raised that because it's so important. Most people are going to see your site from their phone. And so the site needs to be mobile friendly. It needs to be responsive. And what we mean by the term responsive is that it will conform to whatever screen size that it's being viewed on. So that's really important because again, it's that trust, it's that credibility, it's that level, it's engaging, it's the user experience. And so the user experience is even harder to cultivate on a phone because there's less real estate to build on. So that was something that's always we always center in our work, but we tell people even if you're not going to use our agency, make sure that whatever website you're having built, that the the mobile that is mobile responsive, or even some sites are built specifically for mobile. And then there's almost a separate site built, not almost, there's a separate site built for desktop. There's ways, and then some of them are built so that it conforms. It's a bit harder to program sometimes when it conforms across all screens. And so, but that's a really, really important feature because certainly people are still looking at sites on their laptops or their computers, that desktop, that still happens, of course. But a lot of people are looking at sites on the go and they're looking at them on their phones. And so that's another reason why we tell people we have to limit the content, because content may not look as it may not look like as much content on the desktop or the laptop, but it's going to look very different on the mobile version. So content, making sure that your content is really concise is so important. And so as you can see how the site changes, right? You still have all of the same elements. You still have the some of the automation that we've programmed into it, and you see why we have that content very tight, and that's because people are viewing it on mostly viewing it on their phones. That's really paramount in this day and age. You have to have a site that looks great on mobile. Otherwise, it's just you're really doing your organization a disservice.
And I want to thank our behind the scenes um, uh, team who are making, pulling all the visuals up for us so that you all can see what we're talking about. We do hope that you visit the site yourself and navigate through it. Hopefully you go just to visit this time, but I'm very confident that when you go seeking some specific information that you will be able to navigate it easily because it was really built, with that in mind. So let's talk a little bit about the process of creating it because I know, and again, I really need to call out our team, from our communications director, Lori Murray, to Marge and Christy and our whole communications team. I mean, they worked hours alongside your team from just, I think at, the onset and some meetings that I sat in on as well early on. And throughout the process, I got to witness, first just some brainstorming and, envisioning what it could be, and then actually starting to build it and tweak and look and, share so much information. I mean, this was it took some time. It wasn't
Yep.
an overnight process, and it really took dedicated time on both of our ends to come out with this, really beautiful and incredibly impactful and functional end result. Can you speak a little bit about that for anyone who might be thinking about taking this on, because they, just so that they really have a sense of what it takes?
So first, I'm foremost, I have to thank my team. I have to thank my vice president, Justina Krajowska, who is also a designer. So she did a lot of the art direction on the site. And then I have to thank my one of my longest standing members of the team, Vin Nguyen, who did all of the design work, and he also uh, did all of the programming too. And so I'm very fortunate to have someone who can design and program, because usually someone's weaker in one of the other areas, but he has a really great eye for design. But he also has the ability to program, which is unique, and I'm grateful for. And then I have to thank Kia Presley, who's also a very long-standing member of the Tara Dowdell Group team, because she's in charge of a lot of our content and copywriting, copy editing, and proofreading, because we do quality control is really, really important to us. And Kia is the reason why we have the level of quality control we have with content. And so I just want to make sure I shout them out, because I definitely played a role, but I did not play as large a role as that the three of them did. So I want to make sure I give all credit where credit is due. And they were an amazing team. And Justina, also with her project management skills, is just kept everything on task. And so that was really helpful. So we do use a team approach. So we believe in a second set of eyes, like little things like that, right? We are really important to us. So the process, it depends on you. The process really depends on the size of the site. So this was actually a much larger website. You all do a lot. Like YWCA of Northern New Jersey is involved in a lot of really important work. And so there was a lot to translate into the new site, but also the challenge was translating it in a way that wouldn't overwhelm the user. And so that is a part that takes a little bit more time in the design process, because there's so much of what you have to say about your work is important. So how do we distill that in a way that's essentially digestible for the end user? And how do we tell that story visually without overwhelming the eye? So those were some of the considerations that went in. And then it was a partnership, because this was the first time you were overhauling the website in some time. And so I think your team, Lori and Marge and Christy, who were amazing, really wanted to make sure that every step of the way that it was, there were, like most organizations, you have a board, you have a fearless leader, Helen Arcantu, right? You have your end user, you have the heads of each service area, right? And so in ensuring that all of those people were a part of that process, I think was also part of the work on Marge and Lori and Christy's side that was time consuming, but it was right, because you want them to have ownership. You want them to be a part of the process. You want to make sure that the story we're telling is the story that is the right story, is the story they're comfortable with, and is the story that's accurate, right? And it communicates effectively the important work that they're doing. So I think that's a part of the process that can take a little longer when you have a lot of when you offer a lot of services, when you offer a lot of robust services and really sensitive and important services. So that's part of it. And then also, we did some integrations with some elements for you that offer confidentiality and privacy, given the nature of the healing space work. So I think that was also part of it. But it was really a partnership. And so there's many ways. Some people, for some organizations, they redo their website very frequently. So we just go in, we give them a new website, and it's pretty quick, just because they do it very often. For some organizations, they want like just a few pages, because we're offering one or two services. So that's a different process. But for the organizations that are more involved and that are doing more, offering more services, the process can be somewhat time consuming, particularly when you want to create a sort of a durable, sustainable website that can last for a while, right? Then we want to put a lot more on the front end.
Well, no matter what size website you all out there are thinking to create, Tara Dowdell Group, can work with you and again make it just as magical and impactful as our new one is. And I know you've done some other great sites as well that are ones that I have always used, in organizations that I really treasure as well, that we have here in the state. Would you like to shout out any other favorite sites that you all have? I know it must be like, which you put so much, your whole team puts so much into them. Like, do you end up with a favorite or a few that you really love, just so our viewers can go visit them too?
Wow, I feel like if I say that, I'm gonna get myself in trouble with some of the clients.
Yeah, but I'll just say, go
I
to
love them all.
Yes. Good answer. Good answer. But I encourage our viewers to go to your website, because through your website, you do see the links to some of the other great,
Yes.
pieces and sites that you've done. And it really does help, I think illustrate the talent that your team brings to the process. And again, I can't, rave enough about our team on our end. And, really that magic that happens when, you all came together, and made this perfect piece. So, as we're wrapping up, I'm thinking about, I know sometimes with technology and, these kind of things, it's almost as quickly as you launch them, we joke they're outdated because everything's moving so quickly in these industries. What
Mhm.
do you think is like on the horizon for, the sites, as we're building them and, looking forward, what are some of the pieces that you think are that, are coming and, people should be thinking about integrating as they're doing their next evolutions?
Well, that's a great question. I think one area that we've seen is the integration of app-like features into the website. So I think that's an area where we're seeing the website essentially function like an app, right? So it's either through a third-party integration or the developer building certain features into the site, chat features. I think a lot of the chat bots will get better, right? I think they'll be able to communicate better. There's still some glitchiness. I use them myself and the back end of some of the sites that I use, that, like my payroll processor and things like that. And so they're still like a little off, right? Or I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. But I think some of those features will become more sophisticated. I think I think there'll be more tools, accessibility tools who, for folks with disabilities. There's certainly a lot now, but I think you're going to see more accessibility tools for folks. And so I think those are the trends that we're seeing continue to develop. I know even the app industry has, oh my gosh, has changed so much, where as a lot of apps are now web based instead of sort of native to the phone now, just because the cost differential is so much better that, even the larger, like huge corporations are going for web based. So I think those are some of the trends that we're seeing, but I think they're more on the a lot more on the technical side of it. The Is where I'm seeing a lot. And then there's always change too on the design and aesthetic side. Things are changing and moving, but which is why we try to build sites that like aesthetically have a bit more of a classic look to them so that they can stand the test of time. Because we definitely have some sites where and I guess I can mention this one site, but we have Hudson Mediation, for instance. We built that site so long ago, and it really looks like it could look like we built it recently. And so we definitely try to stick with a more classic look, and not we try not to go with stuff that's like too trendy, because then it's gone away. I remember the one page sites, and they were so long, right? And you had everything on one page, and they still exist, but not the way they used to be, where you'd have all this navigation across the top, and then it's just one site page. And so you click on one thing, it just bounces you down to another part of the page, and the site would kind of go on forever. So like those went away. And I remember ones where the video would like go all the way down, like go like it was like everything, it would go down all the way. And so we try to stick with the stuff that seems to be more sustainable in design trends.
Well, it's good to know what's coming, and it's great to know that, you work to keep it timeless, until people can catch up and get there. I do hope that our viewers take time to, again, go visit our new site. We have the easy link dropped in here into the comments so that you can get to it. And I do hope that they go visit your site and learn more about the great work that you're doing. For us, I also have to shout out and say, part of the way that we made this possible was because of the generous donation that Mackenzie Scott had made to the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. I know that she provided those funds with the hope as organizations that we would really focus on equity and inclusivity in our community. And we knew that there's so many areas, that we were able to elevate because of that gift. But, whatever great work we were doing, if we didn't have a site that could really push it out there and promote it, it was going to be kept as the best kept secret, as often happens when organizations are not able to market and to have vehicles like this to share. So we're so grateful that we received that donation and that we were able to use it this way. And it really benefits our community to be able to access our services and all the great work that our team is doing, so easily and now beautifully because of what your team and our team together created. So I'm so proud, so grateful. And for our viewers, I hope that stay connected to us all week long. Whether it's through our website or through our social media. There's much more YWTV to be had, and so many great programs that we're pushing out for you. In particular, I hope that you can join us tomorrow evening. The YWCA is co-sponsoring the TIFF Indie Lens series, and we'll be part of a great conversation. I personally get to moderate the talk back after the film. And it continues a important topic for us about supporting women and their reentry from incarceration. So we hope that you join us for that. We'll have the link dropped here so you can connect to watching the documentary apart and being part of that talkback session afterwards. And all the other great programs as well, you can access through our great website. We wish everyone a great day. And Tara, thank you so much. And to you, to your entire team, it was such a joy and pleasure to work with you. And we're so grateful now to have you as part of the YW family and to continue our work now in other ways. So thank you.
Thank you. It was our pleasure, and we're so proud of the site. And we as a social good marketing and PR agency, we're so proud to be a partner with you because you're doing such amazing work, and you're doing it again courageously and boldly and fearlessly. And it just warms my heart because so many of these issues, especially the anti-racism issues, are so important. And you don't back down, you don't back away, you take it on head on, and you're an ally. And thank you for that.
We all stand together. It's the only way it's going to get done, for sure. So have a great day, everyone. Be well. Bye-bye.